One time, there was a king that wanted to know an answer to a question. And this question was burning in his heart. The question that he wanted to know, answer he wanted to know was, what is the daily job of God? What does God do every day? So he asked his ministers this question, and none of his ministers knew the answer. So then finally the ministers told him, you should ask the priest. The priest may know. So they asked the priest, what is the daily job of God? The priest said, I have no idea. I have to study the scriptures and come back. The king said, 6 days. You study whatever scripture you want for 6 days and then you give me the answer. The priest was in anxiety. He went and started studying every scripture he had access to. After 6 consecutive days, he couldn't find the answer to this question. What is the daily job of God? He was scared. Packed up his luggage. He just left the country that very night. He didn't want to come back to face the king and to die. When he was on the borders of the kingdom, he met a young, small boy who was a shepherd. And this boy, he saw the priest going. He said, my dear priest, you seem to be going on a kingly duty. Where are you going to? The priest said, I'm running away from the king. And the shepherd said, can I help you? Is there something? You seem to be in a problem. And the priest gave the problem. He said, the king wants to know what is the daily job of God. The shepherd said, that's it. I know the answer. The priest said, really? You know the answer? The shepherd said, of course I know the answer. The priest said, tell me what the answer is. The shepherd said, I won't tell you. I will tell the king directly. Now the priest was really in anxiety. Should I believe this fellow or no? So he said, let me take the risk and believe him. And the next day he took the shepherd to the king and he said, my dear king, your question is so simple that a shepherd in our kingdom knows it. Answer, he told the shepherd. The shepherd said, what is the question? Now the priest was sweating. He was really in anxiety. The king, he said, my question is, what is the daily job of God? The shepherd said, I'll answer the question, but on one condition. The condition is that I will sit on the throne and you come and stand here. Then I will answer. By this time, the priest was sweating. He was in big trouble. The king, he wanted to know the answer naturally. So he came down all the way. He stood where the shepherd was. The shepherd went and sat on the throne. And after sitting on the throne, the shepherd, he says, so what is the question? This king was frustrated by this time, But anyway, he wanted to know the answer. So he said, my question is, what is the daily job of God? The shepherd said, this is the daily job of God. The king said, what do you mean by this? The shepherd said, the daily job of God is those who are proud and arrogant, he brings them down. And those who are humble and meek, he sends them up. This is the daily job of God. Whether it is the Mahabharata, whether it is Ramayana, whether it is any of the scriptures you take, essentially the same thing happens. Those who are proud and arrogant, they are brought down. The names change, the places change, the story changes. And those who are meek and humble, they are brought up. Names change, place change, story changes. But in essence, this is the daily job of God.